Hi, Achim from InnerSpace Explorers. Today I originally had complete different plans regarding video topics, but the last couple of days somebody actually decided to comment on all the videos, and one of these gods of diving that obviously invented diving, and which is completely fine for me. I mean, everybody can have his own opinion. It's a free world. Everybody can say what he thinks, can do what he wants, all fine for me. But if there's stuff recommended that I think is really dangerous, I have to step in, and this is the case here. And obviously what I'm presenting on my channel is not the only way, not at all. There's plenty of different ways of doing things, and a lot of them might be correct or safe or whatever. I can say for myself, I'm diving now for 43 years, over 10,000 dives. I've trained a couple of thousand students. All of them are healthy and well, and if not, then not because they had issues in diving, so knocking on wood, nothing so far. So what I present on my channel when it comes to skills, techniques, etc. is at least proven to work, as I'm doing it for a very long time, and I'm not recommending stuff that I haven't experienced or tested myself. So obviously there's a lot of stuff I've seen over the years that went wrong, and I generally don't think that presenting wrong stuff is a good way of teaching somebody. But in this specific case it was about sending up an SMB. And there is a couple of videos on the channel where I'm talking about these topics. There's a presentation of the Liftbag being sent up for Liquid dives. We talked about closed Liftbags or closed SMBs versus open SMBs, etc., etc. But now actually somebody came up with, why don't you use a locking reel for sending up an SMB? And this would be way safer, and this is the common practice for deep divers, blah 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 blah. The issue is that a lot of people, I don't know exactly what that person meant with locking reel, but a lot of people interpret that as a reel that has an automatic locking mechanism. There was this thing called a manta reel. I can't show you one because I don't have stuff like that flying around, but I'll put a picture in here right now. And this was, I think in the 80s or 90s these things were available. Actually I have no idea, maybe they're still produced. But the idea on these was that you grab the handle, and when you press the handle, the reel itself is released, and when you let it go, it actually blocks. And I think this is super dangerous and something I would never ever use or recommend to use, especially not for sending up a lift bag. If you use that reel to lay line and you get entangled, that's bad, but it doesn't kill you instantly. If you're shooting up a bag from a greater depth and you get entangled in line and this thing pulls you up, this can actually kill you. And I experienced 2 bad accidents where I was on the scene. In one case the guy died. He shot himself up from almost 80 meters sending up an SMB, or actually a lift bag. I mean, there was more stupidity involved in this obviously, but the point here was that the reel got jammed, and the reel was attached to his wrist actually with a lanyard, and he got pulled up, end of story. And the other one was actually one of the so-called manta reels, and for some reason, I don't know why the guy was holding on to that reel, but he was also pulled up from a greater depth and he ended up in a wheelchair. So obviously there's something wrong with these methods and these reels, and so I wanted to be crystal clear that if you send up an SMB or a lift bag, no matter if it's just to show the boat where you are on a recreational dive, or you send up a lift bag to hang in extensive deco, there is basically a couple of things to avoid. So what we use is either a spool, and yeah, you have to deal with the bolt snap. This is why we also have a working double ender always here on top of what you have on the reel, because if I work with the reel or the spool and I drop this one accidentally and I was like, oh damn, then I still have my working double ender on my right D-ring, so I can unclip that and boom, I'm back in business. And I normally, on my dry suit pockets, I have this small zipper pocket where you can have cave arrows or stuff like that, and I always have another double ender in there. So in case I drop one, I usually have 2 spares with me to be safe. But in fact, this basically cannot get jammed. Of course, it can get jammed. I mean, if like it's wound up very loose and you have a lot of strength and the line cuts underneath the other layers of line, stuff like that. But I mean, you can basically not attach that to yourself. I mean, if it gets pulled off, it gets pulled off, it's gone. Then you still have a partner, the partner has an SMB, he has a spool, you can always deploy a second one, but this is not going to pull you up. And I mean, to get it entangled, you have to make a mistake by winding it up in the first place. So these things also need maintenance. So when I come up from a dive and I feel this is not done properly, I mean, I can sit down, have a tea, take this apart and then wind it up properly, so I know next time I need it, this is okay. I mean, it's one of these items that people do not really care about. I mean, as long as there's line on it and a double ender attached, they throw it in their dive bag, and yeah, it will be good for next time. But if you shoot something from greater depth, I mean, this can be life supporting equipment to a certain extent. So when it comes to reels, we use these, and the nice thing on these reels, it doesn't matter which brand, they're now available from a couple of brands. Originally they've been produced by Halcyon, is, I mean, obviously you can lock them as every reel. There is a screw here which just goes through here and actually presses on the rim of the reel and prevents it from spinning. But fact is, there's nothing where the line can get entangled. There's a very fine, actually trying to get that closer to you, I hope you can see that. This is a very, very small gap here, and the line actually does not, is that visible? The line does not get through there, and it cannot go anywhere between the handle and the spool itself. So that way this reel can basically not get jammed. Of course you can do stupid things with this, and you can wrap it around and get it in the bolt snap. I mean, there's always room for failure, but this is the safest and most simple design when it comes to reel. And this is what we use when we shoot the bag in a team. I'll actually link the video where I demonstrate that together with Alex, so you see what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it yet. Sorry. And but other than that, there's no locking mechanism. So I brought you another one, another type of reel, and this is actually something we used in a project where we laid a couple of kilometers of line, actually measuring distances. It was an aircraft wreck where we took measurements and made a big map. And so obviously this is nothing I would use for a cave dive or to shoot a bag or something like that. The reason I'm showing it to you, it's actually a pretty clever design. I don't want to go into detail, but the line actually cannot get caught somewhere. But I've seen reels similar to that actually are enclosed. So there's an acrylic, a piece of tube that goes all the way around. And these are also pretty horrible because, for example, if the line goes up very, very fast and this thing keeps spinning too much, actually the line can overtake itself. I don't know how to describe that in English, but you probably know what I mean. So instead of just rolling off like that, this is for you. So when you pull this, you have to see how I demonstrate this, and this goes up, and the line actually then is so fast, or the reel turns so fast that the line gets pulled around once and then it gets jammed. So if it's an open style reel, you can always grab it and sort it, but if this is enclosed, there's no chance of really getting to the line. So also something I would never ever recommend in shooting a bag. So let's forget about this. It was a special tool for a special job. So if you want to shoot a bag or an SMB, that's the two things. ISE, we heavily recommend if you use this to shoot a bag, you do it in a team. As I said, check the video. It's pretty clear that the line goes away from you and you cannot get entangled, etc., etc., etc. And if you do it on your own, you use an open style spool with no handles or attachments or whatever, as simple as possible. Okay, I hope that makes sense and clarifies a little bit in case you ran into this discussion. In all honesty, I removed these comments that I thought are very, very misleading and dangerous for those who read it and may not have the experience to make a proper decision yet. Alright, other than that, thanks for watching. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, and see you next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.